Generally, you may hear of backlight being broken down into 4 terms: rim light, edge light, hair light, and kicker. A hair light is generally used as a way to separate the subject from the background, and, as the naming suggests, it generally hits the hair from above and behind the subject. As with any lighting style or pattern, the hair light can be more obvious or more subtle. Here, we've used a hair light more obviously to build the mood we intended for the scene. We wanted our image to be lit by a warm interior house light. And a good place to start is to replicate a ceiling light. This should be a good way to highlight our subject's hair and separate him from the background. So we used Nanlite's 60-inch FMM lantern softbox with a Forza 60C attached, placing it on a boom arm, hanging it above the scene between the TV and subject. We used the skirts which came with the lantern to control the light into a small pool above the scene. And, actually, this is all we needed to do. By using a soft top light, we're solving 2 lighting problems at once. Separating our subject's head from the darker parts of the background with a hair light, and, by extension of this, an edge light, which changes into our key light when he turns his head. So not only has our thought process towards separating the hair from the background done just that, but it's also helped us in lighting the rest of the face and scene. We can see exactly what a more subtle hair light will do for an image by switching all of our lights off and building them back up. To begin with, we turned on an existing light inside a cabinet in the room. Next to this cabinet, we placed a Pavo Bulb 10C inside a lampshade. We didn't have much space by our subject for a key, so we placed a small white frame near him, attached a Forza 60C to a boom arm, and bounced it from the frame. Set to the same warm colour temperature as the cabinet and lamp light, it also provided motivation on the face from our lamp. The light on the face feels a little too contrasty for the look we want, so we set up a crossbar between 2 stands in front of our subject, throwing over a sheet of bleached muslin. In front of this, we placed a Forza 60B. Turning this on, we have a slightly larger bounce than our key, helping to create a soft wrap of light around the face, reducing some of the contrast on it. But the right-hand side of the image is falling into darkness, which is blending in with the dark side of our subject, especially around his hair. It's difficult to see where his hair ends and the background begins. We hung a second Pavo Bulb 10C next to the drawn curtain in the background. This added a gentle splash of light to this curtain, complementing the nighttime interior feeling nicely, and it also added a very subtle touch of hair light to the hair, but not quite enough to separate it from the background adequately. To fix this, we set up another boom arm behind the sofa our subject sits on, placing a Pavotube 15C2 with its barn doors attached. Turned on, we extend the hair light, which helps to very subtly separate the hair from the background. As mentioned, this is a subtle example, and we're also hitting the ear and neck just a little, but when compared to losing parts of the subject to the background entirely, and slightly adding some separation, you can see how even a subtle hair light can make a difference to the way the subject stands out from the background. A kicker usually refers to a patch of light on the side of the subject's face. This might be located on the cheek, neck, or head. Being another form of backlight, it's primarily used to create separation between subject and background. Here, our subject is lit by the natural light coming through the window, but the shadow side of his face is blending into the dark background. By itself, this might not be a problem if we want to create a feeling of our character peering out of the darkness. But that might not be our intention, and with the window on the right side of frame, we may want to balance out the image and have it appear more realistic. It's definitely an issue if we want him to turn and face the other side of the frame, as we completely lose his facial features to this void. The simple kicker helps us to create separation between the subject and background with a small patch of light on the cheek and jaw, whilst also bringing up the background a little. This was achieved very simply by bouncing a Forza 60C reflector dish attached into a small white fold-out reflector behind and slightly to the side of our subject. Not only does this provide us with the separation we wanted, it also works as a motivation for the other window and helps to retain some detail on our subject's face as he turns to frame right, keeping him separated from the darker wall. Each of these techniques under the umbrella of backlight can be used in a multitude of ways to present a scene as it's intended, whether that's through feeling and narrative, or simply as a functional way to shape an image. Next time on Lighting for Cinema A to Z, we'll be looking at broad lighting and how it differs from the popular short lighting pattern, the way it affects perception of the face, and why you might use it in your image.